definitely still enjoy our Christmas for sure. But I do believe some of us kind of press the fuck it button a little bit, or the other side of it is there can be a lot of events coming up and it can be quite an overwhelming period where you're trying to juggle events and your goals as well. So I really want to kind of run through everything here of covering Christmas from head to toe, giving you toolboxes on what to use. And then I'm going to run through and dissect my plan and what I'm planning on doing, so you can kind of get it from a coaching perspective. And I also want to go through an example of what one of my clients done recently enough. So one of my clients is away in Australia at the moment, and she was on a week-long holiday, and she actually managed it really well to the point where she came back and she didn't gain any weight, she didn't lose any weight, which is an absolute win when you go away on holiday. So I'm going to be dissecting what she done as well. So you should get plenty of tips in this, and hopefully set you up for the festivities as well. So a few things that I always say is what to do. Continue with the habits that you've built, have a plan in place, stay active over the Christmas period, and enjoy the Christmas as well, of course. And that's the most important thing, is actually enjoying it. Like, the last thing I want people to think is sitting there Christmas Eve or Christmas Day with the Christmas dinner and thinking, God, how many calories is this? Or, oh my God, I shouldn't be having this. It's Christmas. It's 1 or 2 days out of the year that you should be well entitled to enjoy yourself, spending time with loved ones. And that's like the tradition of Christmas dinner is, meeting up with people, friends, families, that we haven't maybe seen in days, weeks, or months, and being able to have food with them and enjoy the celebration together. So if you take anything out of this workshop, is that enjoy your Christmas day, enjoy the Christmas Eve, and make memories with loads of people and your friends and your families. But with everything else that comes with it, the other days that are around there, just bear in mind to have those habits, to continue with those habits that we've built, to have a plan in place, and to stay relatively active over that festive period. And this is essentially what we don't want to do, is just throw the habits out the door. This whole excuse of, oh, it's Christmas, I'll start in the new year. I personally think it's bullshit. I think everyone should start in Christmas or the month of December, because you're getting a head start compared to everyone else, and you're just one step ahead. Another thing is not to forget your plan. Like, there's a plan put in place. Just because we have Christmas there's still, take the 5 main days out of December, there's still 20, 22 odd days there, 24 odd days there that we can still work around. So it's very important to not just throw the plan into the bin and forget about it. And the biggest thing is not to press the fuck it button, which is what a lot of people tend to do with the nutrition. Fuck it, it's Christmas, I'll have a whole box of roses. Or fuck it, it's Christmas, I'm going to watch the Harry Potter movie and have a bag of crisps and everything with it. Try not to press that fuck it button. It's probably inevitable. It will happen at some stage throughout Christmas, and that's fine. But let's try not to press it as frequently as we normally would. And then again, like I said, using Christmas as an excuse. So this took me ages to design, so I hope you appreciate the absolute beauty of this design. If not, I don't blame you. But these are kind of some of the tools that I would be adding in to your toolbox. And no method is the right method. You're probably going to pick up a few things in this presentation that will work for you, and a few others won't work for you. It really comes down to what works, and if it works, stick to it. So these are just a few of the methods that I'm going to be talking about in a lot more detail. And what I would say is, pick the methods that you think will work for you, or the ones that you like, and put them into your toolbox and practice them. So we're going to talk a little bit about calorie cycling. We're going to talk about, increase into maintenance, portion guidelines, managing nights out, how your steps are pretty neat. There's a pun in that. Make your nutrition your bitch, and plan and routine as well. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is calorie cycling. This one could be a little bit controversial. You'll probably see it quite a lot with a lot of, like, on social media. There's a big kind of debate with it, whether it's good, whether it's not. You have team for calorie cycling and they do it all the time. Then you've team anti-calorie cycling, which they say it's really restrictive. And to be honest, I can see both arguments, and it can be an effective tool. It can also be quite a negative tool for people as well. But we're going to run through calorie cycling and how it actually works. So if you know you have an event coming up, calorie cycling can be an effective tool. It will allow you to cycle your calories throughout the week to ensure that we stay on track with our total calorie intake and our expenditure. So prime example with this, let's say you burn 2,500 calories every day. So we all know from our total daily energy expenditure, between, there's a total daily amount that we burn on a daily basis. And let's say this individual is burning 2,500 calories every day. So if we multiply that by 7 on a weekly basis, that person's burning 17,500 calories. So if your goal is to lose 1 pound of body fat a week, which would be a 500 calorie deficit every single day, 500 multiplied by 7 is 3,500 calories. So if we burn 3,500 calories, we've burned the equivalent of 1 pound of body fat. So let's say you're currently burning 2,500 calories and you're eating 2,000 calories every single day, which will give you a total daily energy intake. So you're eating 14,000 calories a week. So 17,500 calories minus 14,000 calories, 3,500 calories burnt. Congratulations, you've lost 1 pound of body fat. Now, the norm with that would be to eat your 2,000 calories every single day. You burn your 2,500 and you're going to lose a pound of body fat. But we can actually cycle that or distribute calories throughout the week. And that's effectively what calorie cycling is. So let's say this individual knew on average, they would usually eat 1,860 calories a day. Okay. So Monday to Friday, they're going to decide, right, well, I'm actually going to reduce that by 200 calories between Monday to Friday, and I'm going to save an additional 1,000 calories that I can have on the weekend. So let's say they have an event Saturday, they have an event Sunday. So instead of eating their usual 1859, they drop down to 1659 for the 5 days. And then that allows them to have an extra 500 calories on the Saturday and an extra 500 calories on the Sunday as well. And it can be just a really effective tool to use when going forward with Christmas. So if there's a staff party coming up on the Friday and you're usually eating 1,800 calories, you could drop down by 1 to 200 calories. And instead of eating the 1,800 Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday, you could eat 1,600 calories. And it's just giving you an extra 800, 900, 1,000 calories to spend, let's say, on the night out or on the meal out. So it can be quite an effective tool in that sort of sense. So a little bit of maths involved of trying to figure it out, but that's effectively how you can do it. Now, there are pros and cons to it. Some of the pros with calorie cycling is it can be a useful tool if used correctly. And I think that's the key note to take when calorie cycling. When you're calorie cycling, it's not a case of trying to reduce your calories by 500-600 calories every single day. So what you'll often see people do is, oh, well, I'm going to bank. They say, I'm going to bank a load of calories for the session on the weekend. So instead of eating my 1,800 calories, I'm only going to eat 1,000 calories Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's the wrong way to do it. You're cutting out way too many calories, and that's where a lot of the cons can come into it. Again, one of the pros with the calorie cycling is it does give you that bit more flexibility on the weekend. So if you're someone who has a good few events coming up on the weekends, and it's just inevitable, you can't avoid them, using the calorie cycling tool can be really, really effective with that. And it just means that there's less of a weekend sacrifice where you don't have to give up your weekends as such. Like I said, got a few cons with it as well. The biggest one being people just over restrict with it. So instead of just taking away 100 or 200 calories, which if you think about it, 100 calories is a Freddo bar. That's the difference of what we're talking about. You're not going to notice that too much, or 2 Freddo bars. And that's what we should be aiming for. But people will literally cut out 600, 700, 800, 900 calories a day, leaving them absolutely starved throughout the week. And then when the weekend comes, there's just going to be a far bigger increased risk to splurging or binging out on the foods. So think about it. You have Sandra, who is usually eating 1,800 calories every day, but instead she wants to try calorie cycling. So she drops 800 calories and just goes to 1,000 calories Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Great. She's probably saved herself 3,200 extra calories. But then Friday comes, she's absolutely ravenous because she's just restricted all week. She goes to the meal, she completely overindulges in a starter, a main, and a dessert, and then drinks about 10 or 12 drinks on top of it. Then the next day, she's really hungover. Still pretty hungry, food's all over the place, hasn't prepped anything, and then gets a takeaway. She's not only just eaten the extra 3,200 calories twice over, but she's probably put on a bit more or eaten a bit more, and she's probably going over. Whereas if you do it in a far more sustainable way of just managing, reducing 1 to 200 calories every day, you're not going to notice that from an appetite perspective. And if you do, it's going to be very minimal. And then you can go into the weekend and say, great, I've roughly another 800 calories that I can add to this. It doesn't mean I'm going to press the fuck up button, but it's just giving me a little bit more flexibility. The last con with calorie cycling is it can lead to a little bit of a bad relationship with food. So what I always say with this, calorie cycling is very individual to the person and where your relationship with food is at. If you don't have a good relationship with food, if you're someone who splurges or binges regularly and can't get a good relationship or good control on your nutrition, you probably shouldn't use this tool. This tool is a little bit more advanced, and you should probably focus more so on creating a good relationship with your food and getting, regular eating patterns going, and regular habits nailed down. Because I've seen it time and time again where people use this, they start out with it, then they get overly obsessive with it and overly dependent on it, and then they're literally just severe restricting, severe splurging, and then they just have a really bad balance and relationship with their food. Plus, if you over restrict on your calorie cycling, you're missing out on nutrients, and like macronutrients as well throughout the week. So it's not really advised, but can be effective tool all the same. Next tool that you can have in your toolbox is increasing your calories to maintenance. And this will give you just a lot more flexibility through the Christmas period. So think about it. If you're in a deficit right now, your body is burning more calories than what's been put into the body. So if you're in a deficit of 300 or a deficit of 500 calories or a deficit of 700 calories every day, that's 700 calories or 300 or 500 calories extra that you could have without gaining any weight. So if we were to increase your calories up to maintenance, that means you're going to burn the same amount that you put into your body. Okay, so it's like putting €5 into the bank and then taking €5 out, nothing changes. Okay, and that's effectively the same thing that can happen here. So if you have a lot of events coming up, you can put your goals to one side for the few weeks and say, look, I might, not that you're even putting it to one side, you're just slowing the goals down and increasing the calories up to maintenance. You're still probably tracking your nutrition. You're still having a very good awareness around how much you're taking in, because if you don't track it, you won't know how much you're taking in. So it is still important that you're not completely giving up on the goal. You're just putting it to one side for the moment and slowly bringing that that deficit back up to a maintenance. So if your calories are currently in a 300 calorie deficit, bring it up by 300. If your calories in a 500 deficit, bring it up by 500, and so on. So like if you're someone who's burning 2,000 calories every day and you're in a 300 calorie deficit and you're eating 1,700 calories, bring your calories up to 2,000 calories. It's going to give you an extra 300 calories to work with, and that's going to give you far more flexibility when it comes to the Christmas side of things. One thing that I will mention with that is if you won't really notice it too much if you're only in a 300 calorie deficit, you'll be fine. But if you're someone who's been like in a deficit for quite some time, and you shoot up to 500 extra calories or 700 extra calories, chances are a lot of those foods are going to be coming from carbohydrate based sources. Like if we've events out or we're eating Christmas dinner and things like that, it's usually starchy carbs that will not do the damage, but that's where we're going to get most of our food from. And so you might experience bloating or added water retention due to that increased carb intake, because carbohydrates actually store water. So for every 1 gram of carbs that we ingest about 3 milliliters, give or take, of water as well. So you will put on some sort of water weight with that. It's inevitable. So if you step on the scale and you've had a really high carb meal and all of a sudden you're 2 pounds up and you're like, oh my God, like how am I 2 pounds up? You're not up 2 pounds of body fat. It's just 2 pounds of water retention, or excess water or glycogen, which is where we store glucose. So carbs get broken into glucose and get stored in glycogen in the muscle and liver cells. So just bear that in mind. It's an important note to make note of, that if you do increase the calories and it's coming predominantly from carbohydrate sources, you're going to put a pound or two on, or you're going to bloat a little bit, or hold a little bit more water than usual. And it's just purely coming down to that excess water retention. So best thing to do if you are going into maintenance is maybe avoid the scales, or if you are hopping on the scales to keep track, know that that's the reason why it's gone up by a pound or two. And again, that could go up by more for people. It might not even go up for people. It all depends on the individual. So what I would say is if you do want to increase, just slowly increase it up. You don't have to go from 0 to 500 straight away. Add in an extra 200 calories a few days later, an extra 200 calories, and then work up to that maintenance period. Okay, next tool in your toolbox, and this is probably going to be the biggest one that's going to help so many people out, is portion sizing. This is a great way to track your calories without tracking calories. And look, ultimately at the end of the day, what gets tracked gets managed. And tracking through MyFitnessPal or some sort of nutrition app is probably the best way to make sure you're staying on track with your goals. It's the quickest way to get to the end result. We're weighing out foods. We know exactly how much we're putting into the body. We know exactly how much calories we're consuming. It's just going to be the quickest way when it comes to weight loss. However, portion sizing can be a great tool as well, and it still keeps us on track without actually having to track into like the likes of MyFitnessPal or NutriCheck or whatever it may be. And it's actually really easy to follow. So what I love about portion sizing is that this rule can be applied like in most situations or events. So the Christmas dinner or eating out or your neighbors are coming over, whatever it may be, if you have a few dinner events and you've no way to actually track it, but using the portion sizing can be a really effective tool. And I break this into three rules when it comes to portion sizing, or there's three ways that we can kind of portion size it such. The first rule I have is my 80-20 approach. And the 80-20 approach is really simple. We're trying to aim for 80% of our daily dietary intake to be coming from good nutrient dense sources. So like full of fiber, protein, minerals, vitamins, whatever it may be. And then we allow for the 20% to come from foods that you're enjoying and that you just enjoy to eat. So if you are someone who's not really tracking through calories, or there's going to be a week where you're away and you can't really get access to a scale, or you can't track on MyFitnessPal, using the 80-20 approach can be really useful. So let's say if you're eating 4 times a day, the 80-20 rule will be make sure that you're having 3 meals that are high in protein, high in fiber, quite nutrient dense, and then you allocate 1 meal to a food that you enjoy, like say a snack like a chocolate bar or whatever it may be. And it's just a very simple way to keep on track, knowing that 80% of the diet is coming from good nutrient dense sources, and then the 20% is being allocated to foods that you enjoy. And we should all be applying that anyways. When we're going through our weight loss journey or we're tracking our calories, 80% of your food should be coming from nutrient dense sources. But again, 15-20% of your food should be coming from foods you enjoy. It's going to help keep a lot of flexibility in the diet. And it's just going to help you keep sane as well, being able to have foods you enjoy. Again, if you were to try do that on a weekly basis, you would aim to have like 5 to 6 days of eating well, and then you allow for a day or two out of a social event or just going out for a bit of enjoyment. So this could work really well for the Christmas period, and this is where a lot of people kind of tend to mess it up a little bit, particularly around like let's say from the 23rd up to the 30th, where they just, instead of like saying, okay, well, instead of having a few days where we're going to just nail down the basics, they just go, fuck it, I'm on Christmas holidays now. That's a full week or 10 days that I'm off. I'm just going to go completely overboard. And it goes 80-20 in the wrong way of 80% from like high carb or high sugary foods or just really palatable foods, and then 20% of nutrient dense. So try to not do that as such. So that's the first rule. The second rule that I would apply when it comes to portion sizing is rating your plate. And this can be a really, really good way to keep on track to some degree, particularly if we're out on social events, if we're going to the friend's house for dinner or the family's house or the in-laws house, and you're trying to think to yourself, geez, I don't want to be rude by saying, hey, how much pasta did you put in that there, or did you weigh it out, or can I get the ingredients? Obviously you're not going to do that, but doing your plate like this can be a really effective tool to keep you on track. So when you're looking at your plate portion wise, aim to go for about a quarter of the plate to a protein source and a quarter of a plate to your whole grain carbohydrate source, or whatever the carb source may be. After that, I would just load up half the plate with fruits or veg, depending obviously on the day or the meal. But if you can load up, the more veg you can add to that plate, the better, because veg is just so low in calories. It creates a lot of roughage in the diet, so you're going to feel quite full after it. And it's just a bit of a no-brainer that if you can't track or have no way of tracking, if you load up quite a lot with your veg, it means you're going to be relatively low on the calories, or lower compared to having a full meal that's high in carbohydrates. When it comes to your fats, what we'll roughly say is you usually go for about a thumb size of fats. So like your oils or your butters or things like that, keep it to like just a smidge. And if it's gravies or sauces, I would always just kind of either pour it to one side of the plate and work from there, or a light drizzle on top, not absolutely swimming with it. The third rule to the portion guide is actually using your hands as portion guides. And this can be a really effective tool with it. And it's so simple to use. So what we'll always say, a serving of protein roughly looks like a palm size when we look at your hand, and then a serving of veg looks like one fistful. A serving of carbohydrates is a cupped handful, and then a serving of fats is a thumb size worth of a serving. So you can build your plate up super easy with that. A palm size of protein, think about it, will roughly be about a quarter of the plate. a cupped handful of carbohydrates once cooked is going to be roughly a quarter of the plate. You want to aim for, I always say, two fistfuls of veg when you're portioning out your plate and you've no clue about the calories. Two fistfuls, half a plate, and then a thumb size of fat for any of our butters or oils or anything like that there. And the reason why we have the fat's so small as a portion sizing, like a thumb size is quite small, and particularly for your spreads, your dips, your oils, it's just because they're so calorie dense. So if you think about it, in 1 tablespoon of olive oil, like a level measured tablespoon of olive oil, which roughly works out about 10 milliliters, is about 112 calories. So it's quite dense, and that goes for most of your sauces, unless they're obviously the lower calorie sauces, but it will go for most of your sauces, your butters, things like that. So that's why we will always say try reduce the amount that you cook with, or try you reduce it as best as possible. And again, we can fully appreciate if you're out with the in-laws, you have no control how much butter they put in to the potatoes or cream or whatever it may be. But by at least keeping it to a quarter size of the plate, you're reducing the amount that you're taking in, which overall is going to reduce the calorie intake. So they're kind of three rules that I use when it comes to your kind of portion sizing, is to just naturally follow the 80-20 approach on a daily basis. So over the few days of Christmas or whatever it may be, if you're not tracking, we'll just think to yourself, okay, I'm going to go for 3 nutrient-dense meals and then have one meal where I actually enjoy, and it's, of foods that I really, really enjoy or whatever it may be. Next thing, approach your plate with the plate kind of guide serving of half the plate with fruit and veg, quarter plate to protein sources, quarter plate to whole grains. And then finally, if you need to use your hands as a portioning tool, it can be really effective. So palm serving of protein, fist of veg. So we go for two, cupped handful of carbs, thumb serving of fat. Okay, nights out, probably one of the biggest things that a lot of people are going to have problems with over the next few weeks. So it's Christmas, there's going to be loads going on. It's going to be staff parties, it's going to be meeting up with friends you haven't seen in a while. There's going to be drinks on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, probably Stephen's Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. There's going to be a lot of events. So it is going to be one of those things that's probably going to be a little bit difficult to track, or inevitable that's going to happen. And I suppose one thing that you have to remember with your nights out, and I'm trying to apply this more so, put this message across for like nights out in general. We can have nights out when we're going on our weight loss goal. That is absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, they're very hard to track. And the problem about nights out is that we more than likely end up drinking more than what we should. Think about it. The more drinks we have, the more relaxed we become. We'll say, yeah, I'll have another, yeah, I'll have another. And then we regret it in the morning. So the more drinks we have, tends to be food around the social events, which usually is meals out. And most times we're eating out, it's going to be quite calorie dense, calorie rich foods. What happens then after the night out is we're dying. We are on the couch all day, hungover, or we're not doing too much. And there's a higher increase that we're either picking on snacks or getting a takeout that day. And then the few days after that, we're chasing our tail because we haven't organized anything. And that's why nights out can be quite hard to track, and they can be hard when it comes to your weight loss goals. So we can still have nights out, but we have to choose our battles, is want for a better word, is what I usually say, is choose your battles. So if you know that there's 5 or 6 events coming up, you might have to look at, okay, can we plan any of these nights out? Or if I have 5 nights out, but I still want to aim to lose 3, 4, 5 pounds, well, I'm going to have to say on 3 of those nights, I'm only having 3 drinks that night and cutting the limit, and actually upholding to that promise that I made to myself. And at the end of the day, you ultimately have to say to yourself, what do you value more, the nights out, or finally getting to the position where you want to be, or the end goal that you want to be? And that's where you really have to ask yourself those questions. So if there is 5 nights out, you might have to say, okay, well, I mightn't drink one night, I'll be designated driver. I might only limit myself to 3 or 5 drinks that night, and same thing the next night. And then I might go a little bit harder on one of the other nights, so choosing your battles is really, really important. And we can still have those nights out, but we need to have some form of discipline. It's the same concept. I'll always say it here, like with I use the Louis Vuitton bag theory is what I've kind of dubbed it. Some of my one-to-ones will know that. Basically what I say is, let's say you're saving up for a Louis Vuitton bag and it's €600. I'm sure that'll probably not even buy you a purse with Louis Vuitton, but let's just keep it super simple. So it's €600 and you've 6 weeks to this really big event. So you're like, right, I want that bag in 6 weeks' time. In order to get it, I have to put €100 away every single week. If I do that for 6 weeks, I'll be able to buy the bag and bring it to the event. Okay. So we've two options with this. Option A, we put the €100 away every week. We make some sacrifices, whether that's avoiding a night out or avoiding buying clothes, because the end goal or that end value that we want to achieve is the bag. So we're saying no to the clothes, no to whatever it is, because we want the bag. We do that consistently for 6 weeks. End of 6 weeks, we've €600 saved. We buy the bag. We're feeling fantastic on the night out. Okay, so that's option A. And that's very much so how your goals can go with your weight loss goals as well. Obviously, we can have some flexibility in it as well. But let's say we have option B, where you're like, right, I'm going to put €100 away, same concept for the 6 weeks. So week one, you put €100 away, then Saturday comes and you take 40 out to buy a nice pair of jeans. Week two comes, you put €100 away, but then you take another 40 out because you have to do something else. Week three comes, same process. Week four, same process. Week five, so on, so on. You get the picture. Come week six, you've taken €40 out consistently. That's roughly 240 quid that you've taken out. You're nowhere near that end result of getting the bag. And the end result is, oh, well, I'm not going to have the bag for this event. I'm going to have to spend longer saving up for it. Same concept. Nights out are kind of like taking out that 40 from that €100. We can have them from time to time. But if we have a lot of events coming up, you have to choose your battles. You have to be disciplined with yourself and you have to turn around and say, okay, I'm not going to drink this night, or I'm only going to stick to this amount that night and I'm going to factor it all into my calories. Because otherwise you're just never going to achieve the end result. Okay, so when we are on the night out, I do have some tips to help you to approach the plate and make kind of the eating outside of things a lot easier. First thing is plan ahead. If you know where you're going, if there's a restaurant organized and booked with your mates, chances are you could probably check that menu out on their website. Most restaurants will have it. Granted, some of them won't, and I can understand that. But if they have it, check it out and see what's on the menu. You can have a quick scan of it, and most of you will know roughly if it's going to be a calorie rich dish or is it going to be a relatively okay dish, you know. And by prepping that ahead, you can see, okay, well, that's the menu. Do you know what? I think I'll have that main there. That looks like it's relatively okay. And you could even go as far as to put that into the MyFitnessPal on the Friday. So go into your diary on Friday and say, okay, I'm going to try roughly put in the amount of calories that I think will be given to that pasta dish. So you roughly put it in, you make an educated guess, and then you can continue your day on as best as possible. So planning ahead is so important because 9 times out of 10 you can do it. Next thing, what I would do, also with the planning ahead, is plan the next day. And this is where a lot of people fall off, is that say they go out on the Friday and then Saturday comes, they're really hungover, but they have no meals prepped or anything like that. It's just going to increase your risk of getting a takeaway or snacking on foods that we probably shouldn't be snacking on. Whereas if you know you're going out on the Friday, and chances are you could be a little bit hungover or not functioning as well as you normally would on the Saturday. Well, then Friday morning or Thursday night, prep up one or two easy meals that you can have on the Saturday when you're hungover, and that's just going to eliminate the takeaway. So plan ahead, have structure put in place, and get planning. Next thing, what I would look at is when we are there, if we're looking at the menu, try pick something that it's like a relatively lean protein source. And I'd always ask for a side serving of veg or salad that can accompany the meal. Again, 9 times out of 10, a restaurant will do that. Particularly like a side serving a salad, and just ask them to put the sauce on the side because they usually just drown it in sauce. So just say side serving a salad or side serving a veg, put the sauce on the side. When you then start to eat the food, when it comes out and you're starting to eat the food, I would always approach the vegetables and the protein source first. So think about it, even if that's a burger and chips, or if that's salmon, veg, and noodles, whatever it is, I would always approach the veg first and the protein first, because both are going to keep us quite satiated. They're going to get us full pretty quick. And let's say you are having a burger and you have chips and you got a side serving of salad. Imagine you eat the burger first with the side serving of salad. Chances are by the time you get through the burger or most of the burger and the salad, you're going to be feeling quite full then when it comes to the chips. And you're not going to really want the chips. And think about it, chips are deep fried. They're going to be quite high in calories. So straight away you're eliminating the amount of chips that you're having, or you're reducing the amount. You might pick up one or two, but that would be about the height of it. So it's just quite a good approach to take when you are eating out. Next thing, what I'd look at is double down on chewing time. So chewing is one of the best things that we can do when it comes to actually getting satiated. And there's been so many studies done on this that people who actually double down on their chewing time tend to not eat as much calories as what they normally would. So not only is this going to help us to feel full quite quickly, it's actually quite good for our digestion as well. And we're not going to feel quite bloated after the meal. But when we do double down on our chewing time, we're slowing the whole process down. And that's actually giving the body a chance to send the fullness signal to from the brain to the body to say, okay, we've had enough now, we don't need any more. Whereas when we actually horse our food down, we're not giving the body a chance to A, digest, but we're not giving the body a chance to B, to secrete the leptin hormone to say we're full. So we tend to eat way more than what we should. And then we end up feeling absolutely stuffed. So by doubling down on your chewing time, that's going to help that hormone to be secreted. So if you think about it, you eat the burger really slowly, you eat the salad really slowly, chances are you'll only get halfway through the burger and you won't even get to the chips. And you're not going to feel as bloated. You're going to have a better digestion for it too. Lastly is just be sensible in your approach. Even if you don't stick to double down on your chewing time, even if you don't get a side serving of veg or whatever it may be, just be sensible. Don't go for the most calorie dense dish on the meal. Ask for the sauce on the side, skip a starter and just have the main, or share a dessert with your partner. We're all on a journey here. We have to have some sort of self-discipline. I can teach you all of these tips under the sun, but then if you go into the restaurant and say, I'm going to have a starter main and dessert, you're just doing yourself out of your goals. You're just self-inflicting damage there. So be smart in your approach. Again, instead of having full calorie Coke, have Coke Zero. Simple little things like that can go a long way with it. So when we look at our nights out and how to approach the nights out, first thing, like I said, remember you have a goal to adhere to. We can still have fun, but it shouldn't be an excuse to go absolutely crazy. At the end of the day, alcohol has excess calories. It will prolong your recovery. It will reduce your mood. It'll inhibit protein synthesis. It'll make us feel quite lethargic and tired. We lose track of the week, or we're chasing our tails for the rest of the week. It's just not worth it when you have your calorie goal to adhere to if you're doing it frequently. Of course, we can have nights out and we can manage it for sure, but trying to go do the dog on alcohol every single night is just not going to help you out in any way, shape, or form. And you have to remember, and it's something that I talked about in the habit video, you are a product of your environment. So if you're trying to better yourself, but you're going out, indulging in old habits of constant drinking, that's not a particularly good habit to have. And if you keep repeating that old habit, you're never going to become the person who you want to be, because the person who you want to be wouldn't be doing that every night. So it's something quite important to remember with that as well. If we do have nights out, I would try to avoid the likes of beers, ciders, alcopops, or cocktails, and I would focus in on trying to see, can we get like lower calorie alternatives. There's so many, Rockshore Lights out there now, or even Guinness Light, or even just like gins and tonics, or having a spirit with a Coke Zero or a Fanta Zero, whatever it may be. Those little kind of swaps are going to help you quite a lot with it. I would also then take the responsibility of tracking the drink into MyFitnessPal. If you are going down the MyFitnessPal route and you want to stay somewhat on track, I would track for it and account for it. A lot of us will just tend to not own up to that responsibility. And I have two scenarios with two clients who've done this, where one told me they went on the night out and they only initially said they had two drinks. They had gained a few pounds that week, and then eventually when talking, we found out that they had a lot more drinks than that, and that they just didn't track them. And there probably was more drinks in there, but they forgot. But they didn't track it and they didn't know the responsibility. The second client, who maintained the weight for the week, put the drinks in, every single drink she had, and she had a cutoff of 4 or 5 gins. And once she had those 4 or 5 gins, that was her done. So it just shows holding yourself a little bit responsible and having some discipline is going to go a long way with your goals. Again, step 3, for every 2 drinks you have, use the 2-to-1 ratio. So for every 2 drinks you have, half a glass of water with it. 2 reasons. A, it's going to help you stay hydrated. Remember, at the end of the day, alcohol is a diuretic. So if you're drinking all night and you're not drinking any water, you're already putting the body in a dehydrated state. And then alcohol causes us to pee more, so we're peeing more water out of the body. That's why a lot of us will wake up with such a heavy hangover, is because we're just extremely dehydrated. Whereas if we can keep getting a glass of water into us after every 2 drinks, that's at least going to help us stay somewhat hydrated, and we're going to wake up feeling a little bit better the next day. And the other side of it as well is it's actually slowing down your rate of drinking. So if you're someone who has a heavy hand and back pints or drinks or whatever it may be, like there's no tomorrow. At least then if you're having a glass of water in between each, it's just going to slow down that whole process of having all the alcohol. So that's just something to bear in mind. Step four, avoid the takeaway if possible after a night out. The last thing you want to be thinking about is tucking into a big bag of taco chips or a pizza. If possible, try to avoid it. If it's something that you can't avoid, just be somewhat sensible and get the smaller portion. And then again, step five, plan, plan, plan. Have your next day planned so that you don't have to do it the next day. Have the meals prepped, have them all ready to go so that when you are hungover, they're just there. You can just throw it into the microwave. It's ready to go. Buy a ready-made meal if you're being really lazy. The fit food meals, just pop it into the oven or the microwave and it'll be fine. Have your snacks ready to go. If you are someone who likes to eat chocolate and ice cream or whatever it may be after your night out and you're feeling sorry for yourself, if it's ice cream, great, just get a lower calorie alternative. Instead of getting a thing of Ben and Jerry's, get your Halo Top ice cream. Has 200 calories in the whole tub and you can sit there feeling sorry for yourself knowing it's only 200 calories. Track the next day as well. Get back on track with tracking and have some Deloralite or electrolyte tablets ready to go the next morning so you can knock it back or the night before so you don't wake up too hungover. These are all like really simple things that we can do that doesn't take up too much time, doesn't take up too much effort, but it's going to save us quite a lot in the long run as well. So they're just some of the approaches that I would take to a night out. And I've just included like some kind of calorie guides here of different drinks because I know a lot of people will be drinking over the Christmas period. And I have a calorie ebook on alcohol as well. Some of you probably have it, but will someone remind me tomorrow to upload that into the group so I can, because I'll forget to upload it otherwise, but I'll upload that into the group and it has loads of different drinks and how many calories are in them per serving. So just give you a little bit more of an awareness around it so that you can see, okay, I can make better choices with this compared to other drinks. And like prime example, if you think about it, like Bulmers, 216 calories per can. If you had 5 cans, which is fairly easily done, it's 1,000 extra calories. So if you're someone who likes Bulmers, well, like me, I love Bulmers. What I always do, my approach when on nights out and when I'm trying to drop body fat is if I like my Bulmers, like if I have one night out sporadically or every few weeks, I'll have 2 cans of Bulmers and then I'll swap over to a gin and tonic, and I'll cap it at like 6 drinks for the whole night, and at least I can track that all into my fitness pal. Whereas if I have like 2 or 3 events in a row, I'll probably just not drink Bulmers whatsoever, and I'll just stick to maybe 4 G&Ts for each night, and then at least I can track it. Okay, steps are pretty neat. The pun in that was that increasing your step count is increasing your NEAT activity to an extent. General steps throughout the day, not exercise as in going for a walk. But the best thing you can do when it comes to the festive period is stay somewhat active over that period. You'll see so many people will just lay out on the couch, they'll completely chill out and they'll not want to do anything. And for a day or two, that's fine. I completely get that. I completely understand that. But this is where the bad habits start to creep back in, the bad routines start to creep back in. And it's why you see so many people then go into the new year and be like, oh, it's the new year, but I'm just not one bit motivated, or they find it really hard to get back on track. It's because they've taken a complete week or 10 days out of doing absolutely nothing and their routine is shot. So at least if you can keep the steps up, get out where you can, be somewhat active, it's just going to help you to burn those extra calories. And with our NEAT, you have a potential to burn up to an extra 2,000 calories a day. Again, this is depending on so many variables, but that is the potential. And it just shows you how much extra we can burn from our NEAT activity. And for anyone who doesn't know it, you probably should, because we've gone through it multiple times. NEAT activity is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So any activity that doesn't come from exercise, standing up more, doing the dishes, walking around the house, they're all forms of NEAT activity, okay? And it can be a really important tool over the festive period. So how can we increase it? Just increase your general steps throughout the day. If you notice that you've been sitting down quite a lot throughout the day, get up and just move, just walk around the house, just be a little bit more active throughout that day. Stand up more, and there's other kind of ways to increase it. I've added in by a desk treadmill, but that was for the NEAT activity presentation that we done a while back, so you're not going to do that over Christmas. But doing more housework, get a fitness tracker. Subconsciously, you'll be more conscious of it, and you want to get up throughout the day a little bit more. Another great way to increase our NEAT activity is actually plan some weekend trips, or plan to do something quite active with the family. So if it's like Christmas Day, and you've just had a big feed of food, just say to the family, let's go out and go for a nice winter's walk or something like that. Simple things like that, where you can do it with the family. You're still enjoying your time with them. And going out for a walk on Christmas Day is quite nice as well. But it's killing two birds with one stone. And that's why I always say to any busy parent coming in on the coaching, plan weekend trips with your family, because you're killing two birds with stone, because you're getting out together with the family, you're bringing the kids out, whether it's to the park, to the zoo, whatever it is. But B, you're on your feet all day. You're going to be a little bit more active as opposed to just sitting around. So that's why I would have a look at that there. Make your nutrition your bitch. I think I made this saying up and I thought it was quite cool, but don't let nutrition control you. You control your nutrition. And I think this is going back to pressing that fuck it button that a lot of us do over the Christmas period. Fuck it, it's Christmas. I'm just going to go do the next 3 weeks of this. Go hell for leather in my eating, hell for leather in my drinking, feel sorry for myself. Sure, January the 1st is only a stone throw away. New year, new me. Once you start bringing in that attitude of new year, new me, you're setting yourself up to fail. You shouldn't have to wait until the new year to gain control of your goals. That should have been done 6 months ago. So don't let nutrition control you. You control the nutrition. And there's three really effective rules that can help with this. Rule number one, use the traffic light system. And this one is going to help so many people who will overindulge on the box of roses or the box of heroes or celebrations, whatever it may be. Actually having a bit of awareness around our nutrition using a traffic light system is going to work wonders. And the way I would use this is would go with four typical questions that you could ask. So let's say you're sitting on the couch, you're watching a movie, Christmas Day or Stephen's Day, and you're about to reach for the box of roses, or you're about to reach into the cupboard for food or a Christmas sandwich, turkey stuffing sandwich, whatever it may be, right? Ask yourself this: A, am I showing visible signs of hunger? So what I mean by that is, am I weak? Am I lethargic? Am I dizzy? Is my stomach growling at me? Am I getting the shakes? Am I cold? They're visible signs of hunger. And then go to your traffic light. Green, if it's yes, okay, that's the first question we've asked. You probably need to eat. If it's a maybe, an amber, we'll kind of further assess. We'll ask you other questions and see how we turn out. And then if it's a no, okay, it's probably a good sign that we don't need to eat. Likewise, have I eaten in the last 3 or 4 hours? If that's a yes, probably don't need food. You're probably well fed unless it was a small snack. If it was a maybe, you could say, I've eaten 2 hours ago. It was only a protein yogurt. Okay, we can further assess. And then no, haven't eaten in the last 3 or 4 hours and I'm showing visible signs of hunger. Okay, we probably need a meal. Again, what's my emotional state like? This mightn't apply for Christmas Day, but it can apply on a day-to-day basis. And so many people will resonate with this when A, they're either tired after a long day of work, or B, they're going through a bit of emotional stress, whether that's a fight with their other half, a stressful day in work, whatever it may be. And they'll always go to food as a comfort. So by asking yourself, what is my emotional state right now? Am I hungry or am I angry? Am I upset? Am I tired? Am I stressed? And if you are all of those things, you're probably using food as a comfort. So you could say to yourself, okay, can I distract myself with something else, like going for a walk or journaling or something else, to avoid just comfort eating? Again, maybe am I a bit emotional? Yes or no, we can further assess. And then no, I'm not in an emotional state. I have eaten in the last 3 or 4 hours. I'm not showing any visible signs of hunger. All right, you're just bored. And that's the next thing. What is my environment like? Where am I currently at? Am I just after coming in from a heavy training session, or have I just spent the last 2 hours watching Harry Potter on Christmas Day? If it's a yes, okay, I've been on the couch all day watching TV, you're bored. You don't need food. You're just munching for the sake of munching. If it's a maybe, you've been kind of sitting there the last hour, whatever. Okay, I would probably just say give it another half hour, then reassess. If it's a no, I'm not watching TV. I am highly stressed, or I'm not stressed. I haven't eaten the last 3 or 4 hours, and I am showing visible signs of hunger. You're hungry, make yourself up a meal. And that's how effective that traffic light system can be. And even if you just use one of them, like if you're sitting there watching movies on Christmas Day or Stephen's Day or whatever, and you go to make yourself a sandwich, you say, am I showing visible signs of hunger? And if it's no, then don't eat. If it's, I'm not too sure, reassess in 30 minutes. If it's, yeah, I'm really hungry, have the sandwich. It's just giving you more awareness and more control over that nutrition. So you're picking when you eat, not your mind or your emotions picking when you eat. The next rule that I have is the hunger scale. It's kind of similar to the traffic light, but it's a nice little scale that you can include. So if you are about to reach out for a meal or for a snack or whatever it is, just assess on the hunger scale where you're at. So If it's a 1 out of 10, you're absolutely starving, you're weak, you're dizzy, go eat. If it's a 2, you're very hungry, you're irritable, you're thick with people, low mood, eat. If you're hungry, your stomach is beginning to growl, it's probably a sign that you need to eat soon enough. 4 or 5, starting to feel hungry, I'm satiated, I'm not full, I'm not hungry, you could probably hold off another half hour or an hour. Again, slightly full, you probably don't need to eat. Pretty full, you definitely don't need to eat. And then an 8, 9, and a 10 is just like you've just overdone it. It's that feeling of, okay, I'm stuffed. Like after a Christmas dinner on Christmas Day, you're unbuttoning the pants. You're like, oh my God, I can feel the food up to here. I need to just chill out here for a few minutes. That's when you know you've overeaten. And this can be applied even when you're actually currently eating, and you take a break. You can even use the hunger scale in your head and say, where am I currently at? Am I nicely full? If I'm nicely full, I probably don't need any more, so I'll save it for later. Or if I'm still a little bit hungry, my stomach's still growling, okay, I'll eat a little bit more. So the hunger scale is a really good scale to use to assess where we currently are with our hunger, and it just gives us that better control over our nutrition. Then the next thing is rule 3 is food journaling. And this is one thing that I think can be quite effective, particularly if you are an emotional eater. Again, it may not apply for people during Christmas, but it may also apply during Christmas as well. For some of us, we might have lost loved ones coming into the Christmas period, and Christmas can bring up those feelings again. And again, emotions and food go hand in hand. For a lot of us, we'll always use food as a coping mechanism for those emotions. So being able to journal about that and create that awareness can really help you to gain a slightly better control. A slightly better control over that nutrition. And it can be as simple as just grabbing a piece of paper and saying, okay, how did this day go? Or how did this week go? Was it a good week? Was it a bad week? Was it a stressful week? Whatever it may be. And you can write down the answer to it. Next question could be, what emotions did I have today or this week? So it depends if you're journaling on a daily basis or if you do a weekly review on it. Today was really emotional. I remembered my granddad who died 2 years ago, and it's brought up a lot of feelings of sorrow, and I miss him so much. Maybe that's why I went to just reach for the food, because I was trying to cope with those emotions. You can see how you're starting to just get a little bit more in tune of why we do those actions or why we carry out those actions. Again, another question to ask, am I under some sort of stress at the moment? Such a prime one with work. If you're under a stressful period at work, you tend to just eat whatever's there without realizing what we're picking up. And then again, if you are stressed or if you are going through something, is it affecting your eating patterns? And then what can I do to improve the situation? Once you start to recognize what's going on, you can then put some things and solutions in place to improve the situation. So those 3 rules alone can be quite useful. Between that and the portion size, and it can be a really good tool to use. Traffic light system, the hunger scale, and food journaling as well. Again, I've probably trickled this one throughout the whole presentation, but it is so important, is keeping a plan and keeping a routine. Have a plan. If you know when the nights out are, go look at the menu, go look at what calories there, or roughly how much calories is going to be in it, fit it into your MyFitnessPal that day and plan ahead. If you know you've 2 nights out in the trot, okay, I'm going to have 4 drinks that night, 4 drinks that night. Failing to plan is planning to fail. If you're just going to go out and go into it blindly and say, oh, it's Christmas, fuck it, chances are you're going to ruin all the progress that you've made. So whether you're one of my one-to-one clients who's lost two stone or 1 stone over the last 2-3 months, or whether you're one of the challengers who's lost 3 to 5 pounds over the last 2 weeks, by you going out and not having a plan and just pressing the fuck it button, you're going to undo a lot of that progress. And how hard is it going to be having to go back to square one after all that hard work you've put in, and the feeling of that kind of continuous cycle of saying, fuck, I fucked up now again, I'm back to square one. Just think of it that way. Try stick to the plan as best you can. At the same time, if you do mess up, that's okay. It's part of the progress. So if you genuinely, you're trying and you messed up, or you went overboard on one of the nights, it happens to all of us. It's happened to me numerous of times. But instead of saying to yourself, oh, I'm such a failure, oh, this all or nothing mindset of, I can't do it anymore, I fucked up now, that's it, I can't do anymore. Say to yourself, okay, I'm going to own that responsibility. I went overboard that night. I'm not going to beat myself up over it, but I'm going to get back on track. And that's the last thing I'd say is, it's okay to miss once, but it's, never miss twice. Get back on track. And that is the most important thing you can do. So if you do have, excess calories one of the days, or whatever it may be, or you've overindulged on Stephen's Day, Christmas Day, whatever it is, that's fine. but just make sure you get somewhat back on track. We're going to run through my approach, how I'm going to approach Christmas over the next few weeks. If I was kind of looking to lose weight. So at the moment, I'm actually looking to gain weight. So, but I still have a plan in place. It doesn't mean I'm going to press the fuck it button. Like, I'm still sticking to what I need to do. And a lot of these things will apply for me over the next few weeks. So I'm going to go through my plan, my approach to it, and then I'm going to run you through kind of an example and give you a situation of what one of my clients did, and I thought it was fantastic. So, first and foremost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list of all the events that I have coming up. So right now I'm living out in Spain at the moment. I'm going to be coming home on the 20th. Between now and the 20th, it's just myself and my partner over here. We have one of our mates coming over this weekend. So there's dinner Saturday. We have another mate coming over then the third week, and he'll be there for 2 nights. So there's 3 events between now and the 20th. I can plan ahead for that. I can factor things in between now and then. If I want to use my calorie cycling, I'll use my calorie cycling. So this Saturday, when my mate comes over, I'll probably apply a bit of a calorie cycle. So from tomorrow onwards, Thursday, Friday, and up on Saturday, I'll just cycle a little bit of my calories, no more than 1 to 200, and then I'll enjoy a meal, but I'll still apply some of those rules of portioning out the plate as best as I can, or just double down on my chewing time. Likewise, that night that I go out, I'm just going to stick to a gin and tonic as opposed to getting beers or ciders or cocktails or whatever it may be. A few gin and tonics, 4-5 gin and tonics, and then I'm ready to go. Again, another approach that like I'll probably take for coming into Christmas is just over the week of Christmas itself, from the 20th, when I get home on the 20th, up until about the 27th, I'll just increase my calories up to maintenance. So whatever amount of calories I'm burning on a daily basis, I'll increase my calories up there, and it's just going to give me a lot more flexibility over the course of that week. I'll probably increase my steps over the festive period. I'm naturally active anyways. I like to be standing up as opposed to sitting down, but I'll make it a priority that if me and the family are sitting watching the 5th movie of the day, I'll turn around and say, right, let's get up and go for a walk, or let's play a board game, or whatever it is, just to get us a little bit more active. Again, keep some sort of routine. This is where so many people fall off track. They just get rid of their routine completely. They don't do anything over the Christmas period, and then it's very hard to get back in on track with it. It's kind of the same concept. If you go away on a sunny holiday for a week or 2 weeks, you're just lying in the sun all day or just enjoying yourself. So like, you're doing nothing. So when you come back, and everyone probably knows it, it's very hard to get back into the swing of things. It's because we've lost our routine. So if you have some sort of routine there over the Christmas period, stick to it. If that's still getting a workout in over the Christmas period, get a workout in. Gyms will be open bar 1 or 2 days. So get in, if do a workout if you want, or if you don't have access to a gym, do a home workout, on the 22nd, 23rd, if you've no events coming up, stick to your calories, or stick to some sort of meal format. If that's the 80-20 approach, keep some sort of routine. It's not, an excuse just to get rid of it completely. Again, if I have a night out where I mess up, and I know for a fact there's going to be 1 or 2 nights that I mess up, in fact, when my mate's coming over on the 3rd week of December, I haven't seen him in 2 years. He's an absolute header. He's from Cork. I don't know if we have any Cork people here, but Cork people are mad. I know for a fact we'll probably overdo it that day. And instead of me beating myself up over it, I'm just going to get back on track the next day. I'm never going to miss twice. And the most important thing is enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your Christmas Eve, and enjoy your Christmas Day. Meet up with friends that you haven't seen in a while, and meet up with family, enjoy the period. You don't, at the end of the day, want to be over obsessing over calories and whatnot, and so it is really important to enjoy your Christmas. So that's a bit of a plan of what I'm going to be doing and how I'm going to run that. Again, with my client's approach, I only actually included this last minute when I was going through her check-in last week, but just to kind of give you a bit of a background or a scenario, and I got permission offered to kind of show her food logs as well. So she went away on holidays, and she didn't really want to go off track. So we have a particular goal that we want to achieve, and she's quite determined to achieve it. It's a good goal. So she was going away on the holidays. She said, look, Killian, I'm going away on holidays. I'm going to have a few drinks. There's going to be eating out. There's a group of us going away. I'm just not going to be able to avoid drink or eating out, whatnot. So I said, okay, cool. We applied some of the tips that I've just run through with everyone here, and she managed to maintain. So she didn't go up, she didn't lose weight, which is an absolute success. She maintained her weight while she was away. And we actually have the approach written out here, and I actually have it then the food logs as well. So first thing that she did was she still tracked into my fitness pal. So everything that touched her mouth, whether it's a food or whether it's a drink, she threw it into my fitness pal. And some people think, oh, that's going to take up so much time, or why would I bother when I'm away, or whatever it may be. It takes 2 minutes to do it. And even if you don't know the food that you're eating, you can still make somewhat of a guess and put a relatively accurate guess in there to keep you somewhat on track. And even if you do blow your calories by 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, it's the fact that you're still tracking and you're still owning the responsibility. I think a lot of people hide away, particularly on events like nights out and stuff. They hide away from it. They're like, well, if I don't track it into my fitness pal, I'm not going to see it. So I don't have to own that responsibility. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if we want to succeed in our goals, we have to be able to own that responsibility and move on from it. And that's where we come to the next part. She didn't lie to herself and she added in the meals that she was eating. And I'll show that to you now in a few minutes. Everything she just added it in. She was over her calories most days, but she substituted by getting out and staying active. She added her drinks in as well. So before she went out, she said, I'm going to have my 5 gin and tonics. And she added them in and she stuck to it. And she made better choices where she could as well by using the kind of the 5 steps to approaching her plate on the nights out. She stayed active. They rented bikes when they were away on holidays. They got around, they cycled, and she had a great time as well for it. She wasn't missing out on it. And here are just kind of some of the. I thought I got rid of it. Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought this was the recording that I had. I was like, I thought I got rid of the audio. So this is just to give you an idea. These are 3 days that I took out of her logs. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what she was having. So we can see here she was adding everything in. So she had crackers and cheese. She put a rough estimate into it. She had Wagyu beef and a salad. So straight away here we can see she made a better choice that she had the Wagyu beef, but instead of getting a side serving of chips, she just got a salad with it. And she roughly added it in. She looked at the beef and said, okay, that's roughly 200 grams just by eyeballing it. And she added that in to her My Fitness Pal. Again, that evening, she had 4 glasses of rosé and she added it in per unit. So we can see that she's added that in. She's held herself accountable. The next day, she had 3 eggs and she had a nice latte. Again, she put it was a Costa coffee, so it's so easy to track, and she put it in. For lunch, she had a chicken burger, American cheese, and instead of getting the chips, she had the salad. So she obviously knew she was going to be eating out 3, 4 days in a row. So instead of ordering chips every single time, she just swapped it with a salad or a side serving of veg. And you can see how it's small change, but it makes a massive difference. Like that, she was eating out for lunch. She was probably going to be eating out for dinner, which she was. So we can see here, she had a beef burger. She added in a beef burger, smoked chicken fillet, and she added in Asian salad as well. And then obviously she got an ice cream somewhere along the line as well. She added in a thing of ice cream. So you can see that she's owning the responsibility. She was still tracking. You can ask her herself. It took her 2 seconds to plug it in, but it was still helping her to keep on track and stay accountable. Again, the last day, I love this one as well because you can see here she had her normal breakfast. She obviously had 4 chicken thighs throughout the day, so she threw it in. And then what I love about this here is she had the steak and potatoes. She also had pork belly. She added it all in, and then she had an ice cream, and then she added in all her drink as well. So she wasn't hiding anything. And that's what I really liked about this last food log was that there was food included in, and she wasn't hiding it. She wasn't hiding away from the responsibility or pretending that if she just puts it into if she doesn't put it into her fitness pal, that it's not going to count. She was owning the responsibility and she was, actively having a balance with it. And then if you look at this here, you'll see we can go over to her food log. She was about 400 calories off that day. She was well over, but that's fine because she owned that responsibility. She was still staying somewhat on track, and we could roughly estimate, okay, you were about 2,000 calories over this week, but you were out cycling, you were a lot more active, so you probably burned an extra 2,000. Yeah, that proves our theory right because you maintained weight this week. And I just thought that was a really good food log and representation of how she managed her holidays and maintained the weight. Again, not saying you have to track your Christmas dinner into My Fitness Pal, but just saying that, if you still have a goal coming right up to Christmas, you shouldn't be wavering off it unless you have an event out. And even if you do have an event out, you can see how easy it is to record something in. If you do have a staff party out, you can see how easy it is to record 4 or 5 drinks in there. But then ultimately it's up to yourself to then decide, is your goal worth more than that night out? So are you going to stick to the 4 glasses of wine or the 4 G&Ts, or are you going to do the dog on it? Again, completely up to yourself. So that's kind of what I would say there. So that's effectively everything with the call tonight, the workshop tonight. I hope people have taken a good bit from it. I know there was a lot in it, so there's probably a lot to digest in that. What I would essentially say to summarize it is all the methods that I've showed you, you don't have to use all of them. In fact, you mightn't even use any of them, but they're just different tools that you can add to your toolbox. And these tools, they don't change for Christmas. You can apply these, they don't just, you don't have to just use them for just Christmas. You can apply them for any nights out, any events, any social occasion, dinner with the in-laws. There's different tools there that you can use to get that better awareness with your nutrition and still stay on track. Whether that's cycling the calories, whether it's increasing your calories up to maintenance, portion guidelines, managing your nights out, making your nutrition your bitch, planning a routine and having a routine. They're all different tools that you can use. So hopefully you've taken even one of them or two of them, and now you can apply them to have a slightly kind of more tracked and routine Christmas with it and stay on track with your goal.